The arena floor was smooth black stone, made from the compressed remains of a dead planet. 50,000 eyes watched from the tiered sections above. The air tasted like blood and electricity. This was the grand testing, the place where the Galactic Council settled everything that words could not fix. Today, a human would fight today, someone would die or break or run. Maya Sterling walked onto the arena floor. She was small. Her shoulders were thin. Her arms did not show the muscle of a warrior. The crowd made sounds that were not kind. The observer section made sounds that were like laughter. They had sent their best fighter to crush a small human girl, and they thought this was already over before it started. The girl from Earth wore no armor. She wore her crew clothes, the same uniform she wore when she fixed the pipes and electrical systems on the human transport ship. Her hair was dark and tied back. Her face showed no fear. She walked to the center of the arena like she was walking to her workstation, like she had a job to do and nothing else mattered. General David Sterling sat in the human observer box. His jaw was tight. His hands gripped the edges of the seat. He had not wanted Maya to volunteer. He had wanted to send Captain James Hudson, the military commander with 20 years of combat training. But Maya had stepped forward. Maya had said she would do it. And the rules said any human could fight for humanity's honor. The girl's mother, Sterling, sat next to him. She did not look at the arena. She looked at her daughter. Her face was stone. The champion walked out from the opposite side. He was tall. He was very tall. His body was muscle and something harder than muscle. His skin was blue-green and covered with patterns that showed his victories. Each mark meant he had defeated an opponent in the arena. There were 32 marks. Carried a spear made of energy. It was not solid like a normal weapon. It was pure power held in a shape by technology. The blade glowed with white-blue light. When the spear moved through the air, it made a sound like something dying in the distance. The crowd in the section cheered. They knew their champion. They knew what he could do. The arena announcer was a being made of light, a machine that had been speaking in the arena for 800 cycles. Its voice came from everywhere at once. It spoke the old words that had been spoken before every match for thousands of years. The combatants are named, the rules are set, only one will walk from this arena. Let the testing begin. Raised his spear, he looked at Maya like she was already dead. He was trying to frighten her. They believed that fear made humans weak. They had studied humans for the 10 cycles since Earth had joined the galactic community. They thought they understood. Maya did not move. She did not run. She did not put her hands up to beg for mercy. She stood and watched him. Began to walk toward her. His steps were slow and heavy. He was not rushing. He did not need to rush. He had defeated creatures with 6 arms and creatures with skin made of metal and creatures that could teleport across the arena floor. He had never lost. He had never even been cut. When was 5 steps away, he attacked. The spear came up and forward. It was fast. The humans watching had never seen something move so fast. The blade cut through the air and made that dying sound again. If the blade hit Maya, it would cut through bone and organs and everything soft inside a human body. Maya moved. She did not move the way a trained fighter moves. She did not use technique or skill from her human combat training. She moved the way a human animal moves when something tries to kill it. Her body was survival. Her body was the child of a world that had tried to kill humans for millions of years. Her body knew how to not die. She dropped and rolled to the side. The spear passed where her head had been. It was so close that she felt the heat from the blade. Turned and attacked again. This time the spear came at her from the side. Maya jumped. Her legs pushed her up and backward. The blade hissed through the air where her stomach had been. She landed hard on the stone floor and the shock traveled through her bones, but she was not dead. She was not cut. She was alive. The crowd became quiet. This was not supposed to happen. Attacked 5 times, 6 times, 10 times. The spear moved like a thing of rage. The blade left marks on the arena floor where it hit stone. Where the blade touched stone, the stone melted and burned. Was not playing. He was not testing the human girl. He was trying to kill her. And Maya kept moving. She did not attack back. She did not try to hurt. She just moved. She moved like every cell in her body understood that the only thing that mattered was to not be where the blade was going. Her breathing was fast and hard. Her muscles burned. Sweat covered her skin, but she kept moving. The people in the arena watched this small human girl dance between death and life. The section stopped cheering. The human section stopped making sounds of despair. The entire arena went silent except for the sound of weapon and Maya's breathing and the sound of her feet on the stone. 10 minutes passed, then 15. His breathing became harder, his attacks became slower. The blade that had cut through stone and metal and bone was now cutting through a girl from Earth who would not die. Maya saw the pattern now. She understood how fought. She understood how he moved. She saw that after every 12 attacks, his weapon had to recharge for 1 moment. She saw that his movements came from the same place every time. She saw where he was weak. She could have told him, but the champion of the Empire would not have believed 20 minutes, 25 minutes. The fight had been going on for almost 30 minutes and was beginning to understand something that No had understood before. He was beginning to understand what it meant to fight something that did not have a limit to how long it could endure. Humans were different. The scientists had studied the files. They had read that humans survived ice ages and meteor strikes and plagues that killed billions. They had read that humans had hunted animals faster and stronger than they were by simply running and running and running until those animals collapsed from exhaustion. But understanding something in a file and feeling it in your muscles were not the same thing. Shoulders burned, his legs ached. The weapon felt heavy in his hands. He had not rested in 30 minutes of continuous combat. It could go for 2 hours before exhaustion became critical. He had believed this gave him all the advantage he needed. But what did a human have? What was the limit of a human body? The answer was, humans did not have a limit the way did. Humans had something else. Humans had the ability to hurt and keep moving. Humans had the ability to be tired and keep moving. Humans had the ability to be afraid and keep moving. Maya moved like nothing could stop her. Her face showed no sign of pain, even though it had seen her take hard falls on the stone. Her breathing was hard and fast, but she did not slow down. Her movements were not beautiful or trained. They were sharp and violent and completely unpredictable. They were the movements of a creature that had learned to fight the world itself. Began to push harder. His pride was hurt. The Empire did not lose, did not show weakness. He attacked with more speed and more power. He wanted to end this quickly. He wanted to hit this human girl and break her body and make the crowd remember that they were the strongest beings in the galaxy. But every time he attacked, she was not there. The crowd had stopped making sounds. The only sounds now were weapon and breathing and Maya's feet on the stone and Maya's quick, hard breathing. 50,000 beings watched in silence as a small human girl who was supposed to die in 3 minutes made the greatest champion of the Empire look like he was learning to fight for the first time. The High Council sat in the highest section of the arena. They did not look happy. They did not look surprised. They looked angry. One of them stood up. He was very old, even for his name was Counselor. He had seen 200 cycles of fights. He had never seen anything like this. "The human is not fighting," Counselor said to the being next to him. "The is fighting, the human is hunting." The other did not respond. He was watching Maya move through the arena like she was the predator and was the prey. In the human observer section, General Sterling watched his daughter. She had not told him her plan. She had not told him how she would fight. She had only said that she understood what the other species did not understand. She understood what it meant to be born on a world that wanted you dead. When Maya was 8 years old, she had been caught in a dust storm in the Arizona desert. The storm had lasted 4 hours. She had survived by wrapping herself in cloth and sitting still and breathing slowly. When the storm passed, the temperature had dropped to below freezing. She had survived that too. She had walked 5 miles back to the base. When Maya was 12 years old, she had fallen into a canyon. She had broken her arm. She had climbed out anyway. It had taken 6 hours. She had not cried. She had not called for help until she was out of the canyon. When Maya was 15 years old, she had been on a training trip to the Pacific Ocean. A shark had come near her. She had not panicked. She had not thrashed. She had swam slowly and carefully back to the shore while watching the shark the whole time. She had survived. These were not unusual things for humans from Earth. These were normal things. Every human had a story like this. Every human carried the weight of evolution from a deadly world. It was in their bones. It was in their blood. It was in their ability to keep moving when everything told them to stop. Made a sound. It was a sound of frustration and exhaustion. His attacks were getting sloppy. His breathing was getting ragged. His movements were becoming easier to predict because his muscles were tired and could not do what he wanted them to do. Maya saw this. She had been waiting for this moment. She had been learning and watching and studying while she evaded. She had been understanding her opponent's weakness. Now she knew exactly where his weakness was. His weapon glowed brighter for a moment. It was recharging. This happened every time after he attacked Maya ran at. Her legs moved fast. Her body was low. She was not trying to look strong or brave. She was trying to win. There was no difference between those two things anymore. Raised the spear to attack, but his arm was tired. The movement was slow. Maya saw this. She grabbed a piece of broken stone from the arena floor. It was the size of her fist. She had been waiting for an object she could use. The arena floor was broken in 100 places from attacks. There were weapons here, they just did not look like weapons. Maya threw the stone at its face. It was not a careful throw. It was a hard throw. The stone moved fast, had to move his head to avoid it. When he moved his head, his spear moved. When his spear moved, his defense moved with it. For one moment, the space in front of was open. Maya filled that space. She dove under where the spear was pointing. Her body was flat against the ground. The spear cut the air above her head. She could feel the heat from the blade. Then she was past it, and she was grabbing the spear shaft. Tried to pull the weapon away. Maya held it tight. Her hands gripped the smooth material, her muscles pulled hard, but was stronger. I was always stronger than a human. Every book said this. Every expert said this. They had more muscle. They had stronger bones. They had genetics that made him a better fighter. But Maya had something else. Maya had the strength that came from a world that killed the weak. She had the strength of a girl who had pulled her own body out of a canyon while her arm was broken. She had the strength of millions of years of humans who did not die, who refused to die, who kept fighting even when fighting made no sense. Pulled the spear, Maya held it. They were locked together, pulling in opposite directions. Arms were long and hard as metal, but Maya's arms were connected to a will that would not break. "Let go," said. His voice was rough. He had not spoken during the entire fight. Now he spoke. "Let go or you will die." Maya did not let go. She did not speak. She just held. She held with everything in her body. She held like her life was the spear and the spear was her life. Pulled harder, the spear twisted. Metal was bending. The technology inside the spear was old, but it was not made to break. It was made to last forever. But nothing lasts forever when two people pull in opposite directions with enough force. There was a sound like glass breaking. There was a sound like lightning stopping in the middle of the sky. There was a sound like something fundamental breaking apart. The blade shattered. The energy that had held it together could not hold anymore. The blade exploded into pieces of light and metal. The pieces fell onto the arena floor and made soft sounds like rain. The handle remained in Maya's hands, held a spear shaft with nothing on the end of it. For one moment, everything stopped. The entire arena was completely silent. 50,000 beings could not believe what they had just seen. The greatest champion of the Empire held a broken spear. The small human girl from Earth held the blade. The crowd started to make noise. Some sections cheered. Some sections made sounds of rage and denial. The section stood up. They were shouting in anger. They were saying words that were not kind, but they were also seeing what could not be hidden. Their champion was defeated. Looked at his broken weapon. Then he looked at Maya. Her face was bleeding where the stone had caught her cheek. Her clothes were burned from the heat of the spear. Her arms were marked with burns, but her eyes were clear. Her eyes were looking at him like he was not the strongest thing she had ever seen. Her eyes were looking at him like he was just something that had to be moved. Maya dropped the broken spear and picked up the blade. She held it in one hand. The energy had stopped flowing through it. It was just metal now, but it was still a blade. It still had a point. She began to walk toward. Stepped backward. This was not part of the story he had known his whole life. Did not step backward, did not run. But who had been the greatest champion in the galaxy was now something else. He was prey. The arena started to get hot. This was the system. When a match went too long or became too one-sided, the arena floor would heat up. Flames would rise from beneath the stone. The heat would grow until the combatants had to stop fighting. This was supposed to protect both fighters. This was supposed to prevent a match from becoming a massacre. The stone beneath them began to turn red. The temperature climbed. In a few more seconds, the flames would come up. In a few more seconds, the match would be over. Looked at the hot floor. He looked at Maya. He was understanding something new. He was understanding that running was not the same as surviving. He was understanding that being alive was not the same as winning. He was understanding what it meant to face something that would not stop. Maya kept walking. The broken blade was in her hand. The metal was still warm from being part of the energy sphere. She walked like she had all the time in the world. She walked like she was not afraid of the flames that were coming. The arena announcer made a sound that was like surprise. The being made of light was not sure what was happening. The rules of the arena were clear. When the flames came up, the match was over. The flames were a barrier that no one could cross. But this was Earth. This was a girl from a world that burned with lightning and froze with ice and shook with the flames were not hot because they were flames of energy, not real fire. They did not burn the way fire burned on Earth. They burned the way the arena wanted them to burn. They were meant to hurt and to stop the fight, but not to kill. The arena was controlled and precise and never made mistakes. But Maya had grown up in a place where flames killed. She had seen what real fire could do. She had seen forests burning. She had seen buildings destroyed by fire. She had felt the heat from fires that wanted to destroy everything alive, and she had survived. She had always survived. The flames hit her skin. Her hair caught fire. Her clothes began to burn. The sensors in her body sent signals that said stop, that said pain, that said this is wrong. But Maya's mind did not listen to those signals the way other beings' minds listened. Her mind had been trained by a world that tried to kill her every single day. Pain was not a reason to stop. Pain was just information. Pain was just a thing that happened. She walked deeper into the flames. Her father watched from the observer section. His hand went to his face. Maya's mother made a sound that was very quiet, but she did not look away. She knew her daughter. She knew what Maya had learned on Earth. She knew that her daughter would do this. The crowd went completely silent. This was not supposed to happen. In the history of the arena, which went back thousands of cycles, no one had ever walked through the flames. The flames were a barrier that could not be crossed. They were the law of the arena. They were the reason matches did not end in death. But a girl from was walking through them like they were just another thing that tried to kill her and would fail. Maya emerged from the other side of the flames. Her skin was red and burned. Her hair was singed short and smoking. Her clothes hung from her body in burned pieces. She coughed once. Then she straightened. Then she looked at. The champion was standing on the other side of the flames. He was clean. He was unhurt. He was looking at the burned girl who had walked through fire and was still standing. He was looking at the broken blade in her hand. He was looking at the certainty in her eyes. Took one step backward. Then another's. Then another's. The arena announcer made sounds that were not normal. The machine was trying to understand what was happening. According to the rules, the match should be over. The flames had come. The flames were the end of everything. But the girl had walked through them, and now she was walking toward the champion who was running away. The match is over, the announcer said. The flames have stopped the fighting. But it did not matter what the announcer said. Everyone could see what was true. The girl was still fighting. There was still running. The match was not over. The match would not be over until one of them could not stand. Reached the edge of the arena floor. There was a wall. He could not run further. He turned to face Maya. He had no weapon. His armor was whole, but it did not matter. His armor could not protect him from what was coming. Maya stepped out of the flames. She walked slowly. She held the broken blade. Every step was a step toward the truth of what had happened. Every step was a step toward understanding that the galaxy had been wrong about humans. In the observer section were standing. They were making sounds of anger and denial. Some of them were leaving the arena. Some of them were staying to watch what they did not want to see. Some of them were already thinking about what this meant for the Empire. If humans could do this, then everything had to change. Everything had to be different. Raised his empty hands. He was not trying to fight anymore. He was trying to defend himself. But there was nothing to defend against. Maya was not attacking him. She was just walking. She was just existing in a way that was more terrifying than any attack could be. Maya stopped walking. She was close enough to touch now. She could have killed him. She had the blade. She had his weapons. She had the strength and the speed and the will. She could have ended his life right here, right now. She did not. Instead, she held out the broken spear blade and let it fall to the ground between them. Then she turned away. She walked back toward the center of the arena. She stopped in the middle of the arena floor and stood there. Her body was burned and hurt and tired, but she was standing. The crowd did not make sounds. The crowd did not know what sounds to make. They had seen something that could not be unseen. They had seen a small human girl from a dead world walk through flames and break the greatest warrior in the galaxy. The arena announcer made a sound that was like acceptance. The match is ended. The human stands, that does not approach. By the laws of the arena, the human has won. The human observer section erupted. People were standing. People were making sounds that were like joy and like pride and like the sound of being alive when they had expected to be dead. General Sterling stood up. His face was wet with tears, stood up too. She was not crying. She was smiling. She was looking at her daughter with a face that said, "I knew you could do this." The observer section was making different sounds. They were sounds of anger and shock and the sound of understanding that the world had changed. The High Council stood up. Counselor looked at his own people and then at the burned girl standing in the center of the arena. He understood what had happened. He understood that the Empire had been wrong about humans. He understood that being the strongest was not the same as being the best. The Galactic Council members sat in their boxes. They were looking at each other. They were beginning to realize that the galaxy had just become very different. The species that they had ignored and dismissed was now something they had to respect. The humans had proven something that could not be. The medical chamber was clean and cold. Machines that hummed with quiet purpose surrounded the platform where Maya Sterling lay. The burns on her skin were serious. The doctors from 5 different species worked together to treat them. The human doctors wanted to use human medicine. The doctors wanted to use medicine. The machines wanted to use technology that was millions of years old. But they all agreed on one thing: Maya Sterling would live. Her father sat outside the chamber. General David Sterling had not moved in 6 hours. A chair had been brought for him. He did not sit. He stood and watched through the transparent wall. He watched his daughter breathe. He watched her chest rise and fall. He watched the machines work on her burned skin, and he thought about everything that had led to this moment. He had wanted to send a soldier. He had wanted to send Captain Hudson or someone else with military training and military experience. But Maya had volunteered. Maya had stepped forward in the meeting and said she would do it. She had said she understood something about humans that the others did not understand. She had said she knew how to survive. General Sterling had asked her why she thought she could win against a champion. Maya had not answered right away. She had thought for a long time. Then she had said something that he would never forget. She had said, "I come from a world where everything tries to kill you. Thunder kills you. Lightning kills you. Earthquakes kill you. Animals kill you. The weather kills you. The ground itself will kill you if you are not careful. My ancestors survived that for thousands of years. I have that in my bones. I have that in my blood. I have that in my muscles." Comes from a world where he is comfortable. He has never had to fight the world itself. He has never had to fight just to stay alive for one more day. That is the difference. General Sterling had listened to his daughter. He had understood that she was not being brave or foolish. She was understanding something about the nature of being human that transcended training and experience and technology. She was understanding that humans had been shaped by a cruel world, and that shaping was not something that could be taken away. He had approved her volunteering. Now, watching his daughter breathe in the medical chamber, he understood that he had been right to approve. And he understood that humanity had just changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. In the political chambers of the Galactic Council, delegations were already meeting. The Empire was demanding a rematch. They were saying the conditions were unfair. They were saying the flames should not have been used. They were saying many things that were angry, and that made no sense. But the ancient laws of the arena were clear. There were no exceptions. There were no circumstances where a loss could be overturned. The arena had spoken. The human had won. The representatives from the other species were talking quietly. The who were a species with 6 arms and 3 brains were saying that this changed everything. They could no longer be trusted to know who was strong and who was weak. They had been wrong about humans. What else had they been wrong about? The who were a species made of crystalline material were calculating probabilities. They were trying to understand how a human had defeated a champion. The math did not make sense to them. A human had less mass, less muscle, less physical capability. But the human had won. This meant the calculations had been wrong. This meant they had to recalculate everything. The Terran diplomatic team sat in their section. They were not saying much. They were letting the other species speak. They were letting the galaxy understand what had happened. They were letting people reach their own conclusions about what humans were and what humans could do. Captain James Hudson sat with them. He had wanted to be the one to fight. He had wanted to be the champion who represented humanity. But he was glad now that Maya had fought instead. He was glad because he was beginning to understand something about being human that he had never fully understood before. He was beginning to understand that humanity's strength did not come from training or weapons or military discipline. It came from something deeper. It came from being shaped by a world that wanted you dead. The old counselor was in a private chamber with his own people. He was explaining to them what had happened. He was explaining that they had been wrong about humans for 10 cycles. He was explaining that they had studied humans incorrectly. He had studied them as if humans were creatures like any other creature. But humans were not creatures like any other. Humans were creatures shaped by ice and fire and lightning. Humans were creatures that survived by refusing to die. Counselor was telling his people that this changed everything. The Empire could no longer claim superiority in all things. They could no longer claim that strength came only from muscle and technology. The humans had shown them something new. The humans had shown them that strength came from will. And will, the old counselor was saying, came from being tested by a cruel world. In a small room near the medical chamber, Maya Sterling's mother sat alone. She was thinking about her daughter as a child. She was thinking about the time Maya had been caught in the dust storm. She was thinking about the time Maya had fallen into the canyon. She was thinking about all the times her daughter had survived things that would have destroyed other children. She was thinking about what it meant to be born on Earth. She was thinking about what it meant to live on a world that tried to kill you every day. She was thinking about how that shaped you. She was thinking about how humans had survived on that world for millions of years. She was thinking about how that survival was in the bones of every human who had ever walked under the stars. Maya Sterling woke up in the medical chamber. Her skin was still burned, but the burns were healing. The human body was remarkable at healing. The human body had learned to heal from injury because the world had given it so many injuries to heal from. She looked at the machines around her. She looked at the doctors from different species who were working to help her. She understood that they had been studying her during the fight. They understood now what she had always known. Humans were different. Humans were something new. A message came to her through the medical chamber speakers. It was from the Galactic Council. They were offering humanity equal standing in all galactic affairs. They were offering humans membership in the Trade Federation. They were offering humans protection and alliance. They were offering humans a place among the stars as equals, not as a new species that needed to be protected or studied or controlled. But Maya already knew this would happen. She had known it before the match began. She had known that if humans could survive, they could survive anything. She had known that if humans could fight the planet itself, they could fight anything in the galaxy. She had known that humanity had always been strong. They had just been too far away for anyone else to notice. The arena went silent as Maya Sterling, the girl who had walked through flames, became something new. She became the symbol of human strength. She became the proof that the galaxy had been wrong. She became the beginning of a new era, an era where humans would stand with the other species not as equals, but as something that had to be respected. And on Earth, in the Arizona desert where Maya had survived a dust storm as a child, the sun rose over sand that had been shaped by millions of years of trying to kill the creatures that walked on it. The sun rose over a world that had made humans strong, and the humans of Earth looked up at the stars and understood that the stars would never be the same, or ignored or explained away. Medics came onto the arena floor. They came toward Maya. She sat down slowly. Her legs would not hold her anymore, but she was still alive. She was still conscious. She was still the girl who had walked through flames. As they put her on a floating platform and began to treat her burns, Maya looked up at the observer sections. She looked at her father. She looked at her mother. She looked at the champion who was still standing by the wall, watching her leave. She did not smile. She did not make any gesture. She just looked. She looked like someone who had understood something true about the universe. She looked like someone who had been shaped by ice and fire and lightning and had learned to carry that shaping in her bones. She looked like a human. And killed everything that was not strong enough. This was a girl who understood flames. The arena floor erupted. Walls of fire came up from beneath the stone. The flames were tall and hot and bright. They filled the space between the two fighters like a river of burning light. The crowd made sounds of excitement and fear. This was the end of the match. This was the moment when everything stopped. Maya Sterling walked into the flames. Times it was a pattern, it was the same pattern. It always happened in the same way. And when the weapon was recharging, it was slightly less powerful. It was only slightly. But slight was all Maya needed. Saw her move toward him. He raised his weapon to attack. But for the first time, instead of running away from him, Maya ran toward him. She did not run away from death. She ran into the face of death, and the champion, who had never met a creature that would do this, hesitated for just one moment. It was the only moment he needed to lose. He would not have understood that a human girl from a dead world could see the truth that his own people had missed. Maya Sterling had been shaped by lightning and ice and fire and predators and starvation. Every cell in her body was designed to survive the unsurvivable. And now, in the arena, she was finally doing what her whole body had been built to do. She was hunting,